Welcome back, guys. Now, I was asked to do a breakdown for the trailer of Runaways Season 3. The thing is, I was planning on presenting you with such a trailer breakdown when the trailer first released during New York Comic Con, but as I stated repeatedly, life happens, work happens, and I was really busy over the past few weeks. That's why my videos were limited, but I'm back now. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be talking a little bit over here, and before I present you with the trailer, and before I start discussing it, about Morgan Le Fay. Now, the biggest question about Morgan Le Fay is how they're going to present her. Who is Morgan Le Fay? Are they going to do the whole King Arthur, the Camelot ordeal, or are they just going to do away with that? Now, it is possible. It is the second answer. I've got no answer at this very moment. We get nothing on this out of the trailer, but the one thing that I could tell you, from my own perspective, and that said, is that if they ever do that and present us with that kind of story, they're probably going to dedicate an episode like the history of Morgan Le Fay, the earlier life of Morgan Le Fay. But another thing about Morgan Le Fay that I'm going to talk about in a moment in more detail and after I preview the trailer with you guys is that she's going to have a direct connection to the Dark Dimension. Now, we know that the Dark Dimension over here plays a role because Nico, the powers of Nico and her staff, and that's all going to connect to Morgan Le Fay. She's going to be more of a Nico bad guy rather than an overall bad guy. We've still got the same set of villains, Jonah and his current team up, and that's gonna continue into the new season. That's a fact, that thing we know out of the end of the second season. But that though having been said, let's watch the trailer and then let's start discussing the details of every little bit of that trailer.
Stop fighting it, Nico. There is no need to be afraid of the dark.
When the ship blew up, the magistrate's family took new bodies.
And you think that the aliens are inside her parents?
There is a fourth member of the family, the darkest and most dangerous of them all.
Darkness is surrounding.
Who's the host?
It could be one of the kids. How do we know who he's inside of? We don't.
This is gonna be fun.
I know what you want, and you don't want to lose Nico to the darkness. But the thing is,
She's been mine for a long time.
Darkness is surrounding.
who are you?
And what the hell have you done?
We missed the warning.
Alright, so there are two majorly interesting parts to this trailer, interesting scenes on this trailer. They're the ones that scream tie-in, Cloak and Dagger showing up. They show up with Nico first. The only issue is, I'm still trying to figure out how does these two connect to this one. Like, how did Cloak happen to sense what's going on with Nico? Okay, we need to remember that Cloak and Dagger draw their powers from the Dark Force dimension and the Light Force dimension, respectively. We also need to remember that Nico draws her powers from the Dark Dimension. So if we start thinking that there is a connection between Cloak and Nico, it's not really true. They draw their powers from two different dimensions. It's not the same thing. They might be connected in the end. At least at some point I started thinking, okay, there's definitely a connection, but they're not really one and the same. So here's to hoping how these two connect, how this one senses that the other thing is doing something wrong, something crazy. And may I remind you that the crossover event is going to happen only for one episode, so we are to expect a very brief encounter between the two groups. But here though is the other crazy moment on this trailer, which is pretty much all about Nico pulling the staff out of her body, like her body opening up and the staff just comes out, and that's pretty much by the comics, out of the comics. So it is a pretty exciting scene for any comic book fan, and the powers of Nico, that's gonna be amazing as well. But circling back to the beginning of the trailer, because I seem to have gotten excited over the last part of the trailer, the very beginning of the trailer is exciting as well. We've got Liz Hurley portraying the role of Morgan Le Fay on the series. That's pretty exciting for me. have always been in love with the acting of Elizabeth Hurley. The only problem with Elizabeth Hurley, for me, has always been the choice of roles. But she's a pretty good actress, so she's gonna bring a certain level, let's say maturity to the series. I sure hope so. The thing about Morgan Le Fay, though, is she does fit right in with the powers of Nico, with the situation of Nico, and with the whole idea of the dark dimension. She's a practitioner of dark magic that fits right in. She's there to try to train Nico in the ways of the dark, and she's telling her at the very beginning, don't be afraid of the dark. So that takes us back to what I said at the very beginning of this video about Morgan Le Fay. You know, she's gonna be a character-specific villain rather than the overall villain of the season. Now apparently, and right off the bat, the Runaways are gonna figure out what's going down with their parents. You know, a lot of them have been occupied, their bodies have been occupied by members of the magistrate. But there's one that's missing, one that didn't occupy any of those bodies, and that one seems to be the most dangerous of all of them, so it's not really Jonah. I personally find this to be a little bit of a silly twist. I mean, if Jonah is not really the most dangerous of all of them, why did that one not just take over, you know, do the job from the very beginning? Because if he's the most powerful, he would have probably had a higher success rate, and a faster one at that. Now the one question that's looming from the very beginning of the trailer and to its very end is the question that we had since the end of Season 2. Who's the host? It could be one of the kids. The question is asked and answered on this trailer. And with everything that's going on with none other than Nico, the trailer is kind of sending us the message, please believe it is Nico. Or it is possible it is actually Nico, and the trailer is trying to kind of confuse us, because they know we're gonna think, yeah, it's kind of obvious you're trying to make us think it is Nico, so we're just gonna think it's someone else. That kind of builds towards the overall suspense of the upcoming season, with us in the end discovering the one person that we kind of discarded because of this one trailer. However, though, I do think it's not Nico. I do think Nico has got her own arc, has got her own thing going on this season, and that's more than enough. I mean, you don't need more darkness when it comes to Nico. You've already got this character wrapped and shrouded in a lot of darkness. But that also brings us to the other possibility. They're not just trying to confuse us by making us think it is Nico. They're trying to confuse us by making us think it is one of the kids. It might be someone completely different. We might all be in for a big surprise on the upcoming season, realizing that last member is definitely not one of the Runaways. But there's a lot of fighting over there, a lot of display of powers. We see a pregnant woman's belly, and the pregnant woman's belly does look weird. That's possibly Leslie Dean and her baby is gonna be yet another member of the magistrate. It's also possible that the baby is pretty much the fourth member of the magistrate, and it is possible, all in all, that this pregnant person is not Leslie Dean at all. I mean, we don't even see a face on that scene, so it is possibly someone completely different, but I do think it's Leslie Dean, and I do think this baby is gonna be a magistrate member, and he's most probably as well not gonna be the fourth and missing person there. But here, though, is one last thing on this trailer. There is the conversation between Karolina, Dean, and none other than Morgan Le Fay. You know, I know what you want. You don't want to lose Nico to the darkness. But the thing is, she's been mine for a long time. That's pretty much indicative of the fact that Morgan Le Fay is going to be representative of the dark dimension. She's not really the dark dimension herself, but she's pretty much going to be portrayed as the darkness that comes out of that dimension. She's pretty much going to be representative of the embodiment of that darkness. But that being said, here are my expectations out of the third season of the series. I do think this season is going to be the least childish out of all three. I followed the first two because I do like anything Marvel. I've got to watch anything Marvel, even when it sucks. So there are no regrets so far except for Inhumans. Runaways Season 1 and 2, they were expected to be a little bit young adultish, you know, teenager-ish, because pretty much they address that kind of age group. It is silly to expect anything otherwise. However, though, everything about this season does give us the hint that there is a possibility this is gonna mature a little bit. And I'm hoping here they're taking a page out of Cloak and Dagger. I mean, Cloak and Dagger does the same thing, but they do it with class. They do it with a little bit of maturity. But that having been said though, I don't want to assume too much based on a 1 minute 11 seconds trailer, but I want to tell you I'm going to enjoy this to the fullest. I hope you do enjoy it to the fullest when it releases. And I want to tell you as well that I'm going to be reviewing the series once the 3rd season does release. That being said as well, let me know if you did like this video by dropping it one of those much appreciated likes, subscribing to this channel, and make sure while you're at it to enable notifications in order to get updates whenever I upload a new video, publish a new community post, or start a new live stream. But until the next time that you tune in for another one of my videos, Runaways or otherwise, thank you so much for tuning in to this video and have a great day.